Hi, welcome to Jana's Kitchen. Tonight I am making steak Diane with delicious filet mignons. But I wanted to start out first of all showing you what I've got going off to the side here. I've got a pot with some Yukon Gold potatoes simmering away. I'm going to actually turn that down just a little bit more. You don't have to boil them like crazy, you just have to simmer them. And those are just about halfway done, or just maybe 3/4 of the way done. So I'm just going to turn that temperature down a little bit. And it's really important with potatoes that you salt them when you're boiling them, because if you don't salt them, it'll really be almost impossible to get them to taste salted by adding it later. But do it your way. That's how I've always been taught. And so over here I have 3 filet mignons. The recipe is for 4 filet mignons, but I'm going to keep the sauce the same because we like extra sauce in our recipe. And so what we've got here today are the 3 beef tenderloins, and I'm going to salt them. And with tenderloins, you want to salt them on every side because you're going to eat all the sides, I hope. These are so tender, I can tell. And I brought them to room temperature, so they're ice cold inside. See, get all those sides really good. And you can even do this ahead of time and put them in the refrigerator, because the drier the meat is, the better, because they're going to get nice and caramelized in that pan better. And you want to salt your meat generously. I'm going to wash my hands real quick. I wash my hands with soap and water because I've been touching raw meat. Get them dried off good. Thank you. Now I'm going to add some fresh ground pepper to those. And off to the side I've got a cast iron skillet. If you don't have a cast iron skillet, that's okay. Just use the thickest bottom skillet that you have. And as you can see, I've got it smoking hot. There. I'm going to add some more when I put it into the pan. I'll add the pepper to the other side. And so I've got some butter here. I do not want to put a whole lot of butter in this skillet. I just want to put enough in the skillet so that they don't stick. I must reserve that for later. This is a great meal. It's fast, it's delicious. And a lot of people probably will recognize Steak Diane from going to a Cheesecake factory, and they serve it there. I'm going to turn this up. And now we're not going to even, once I get those in there, we're not going to budge them for a second. We're going to cook them exactly 2 minutes on each side. Move this out of the way. Add some more pepper to this side. That pan is smoking. Get it well seasoned. It's very simple on the meat. And then we're going to have a very flavorful sauce. And you don't want to move the pan. You don't want to move the meat. And if it's hard to release them, then it's not ready to flip. But the average is about 2 minutes on each side. These are about 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches thick. My husband likes his steak medium, just slightly towards the medium well side, but he likes it pink, but he doesn't like it red. And so I've got one of his steaks cut a little bit thinner so that it all times out perfectly. I'm going to check my potatoes while those are cooking. And those are starting to fall apart. That's perfect. I'm going to go ahead and drain these while we're waiting that 2 minutes. And let those stay over that burner that's shut off. And that burner being shut off is still kind of warm, and it's going to dry those potatoes out, any remaining water on the bottom. I'm going to check these steaks. And if they pull apart, then they're not ready to flip yet. I'm going to let just another second on that one. It's so tender, it's falling apart. Got a little flip over there on the side. There we go. Can you see that? Nice and dry. There's no moisture around, which means we're getting it seared well. I should have put a toothpick on that little part over here. There, we've got 3 seared steaks on one side. And we're going to cook these again, even though I'm saying 2 minutes on each side. We're going to cook these again. I'm even going to cook the sides a little bit because I like them seared on all sides. And I've got all my ingredients already ready because this is pretty fast to pull together once it's going. And so for the potatoes, what I'm going to do is these are nice and dried, and in just a minute I'm going to mash them. You do not add anything to boiled potatoes if you want a mashed or whipped potato. You mash the potatoes first. I hope I don't get the smoke alarm going on. I turned my overhead fan off. There we go. I just didn't want to smooth. I don't want my smoke alarm to go off. No way. Then I'll have to pause and wait for the security system to call. I think that's just about 2 minutes on that side. I'm going to brown the edges here real quick. You can see it's very rare inside yet. And my daughter and myself, we like our steaks more towards the medium rare side. There, see? So that way we're getting all of the sides charred. So it's sealed in all the juiciness. One thing about filet mignon, you do not want to cook it to being medium well or well, because it doesn't have a lot of fat in it. And it would be a pretty, you might as well just cook a hamburger and pour the sauce over this. Okay. We're getting some color on that all the way through. And I'm going to put these to the side. I have a warmed oven that I've got warmed up to 400 degrees. And I'm going to stick this meat into that oven for just a couple minutes, and that'll bring it more to a closer temperature for us. Just a second. Now I gotta turn this way down. Got good and hot. And I don't want to burn my pan because we're going to put some sauce in that. Move it off temperature just for a minute. Okay. I just don't want to burn my sauce. So to this, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of butter. Some of that black pepper there. I'm going to add shallots, 1/4 cup of shallots. Some people call this a pan sauce. I call it steak Diane, which is a nice filet. Ooh, yes, delicious. Now I'm going to add some Worcestershire sauce. I'm going to add some lemon juice. Ooh. A little bit of garlic. I didn't want to add that garlic to just that dry pan because it would have burned in a heartbeat. There's Bailey and Jack in the background. You can hear them. They just finished their dinner, so they're going to want to come in the house. That is dry mustard. 2 teaspoons of dried mustard. Here is a tablespoon of Au Jus mix. You can get it at the store. There's several different brands. Here is a tablespoon of tarragon. Now, here is a 1/4 cup, and be really careful with this. You don't want to touch the side of the pan with this. This is a 1/4 cup of brandy. And if it touches the side of that pan, it will flare up. And if you have one of those microwaves fans above the stove, you can melt the handle. I don't know how I know that. I was cooking at my son's house one night. Now we're going to turn our fire back on. That pan cool down a little bit. Turn my fire back up. Then I've got a tablespoon of parsley. I didn't have any fresh, so I used some dry. And then this is a 1/2 cup of heavy whipping cream. And to that I'm going to add just a pinch of salt. My husband's opening up the windows because I smoked up the house. I'm going to add some pepper. Add some mushrooms. Now, my daughter Erin, all my kids love mushrooms actually, all 3 of my children, and their spouses. We're going to let this cook for just a few minutes to get those mushrooms cooked through. You can add those to the butter and the onion too, and then add your heavy whipping cream last. So I'm going to let this cook down for just a few minutes. And if I have to add a little bit more heavy whipping cream, I'm going to do that. And we'll finish the sauce up with some chives here just shortly. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and start these mashed potatoes. I'm warming up some butter, a stick of butter, and a cup of heavy whipping cream. In the microwave, because you don't want to add cold milk to the potatoes because they're hot and it'll just turn them to goo. So I'm mashing these really well. Look at our sauce over here. Ooh. Steak Diane. See how I get these all smashed before I add anything to them. I don't want to add milk, I don't want to add butter until I get them smashed. You can put this in your mixer and do the same thing, or use a hand mixer. I have this nice potato masher. While the butter is melting, I'm going to stir this a little bit. And this sauce is going to get served over the top of the steak, which makes it the steak Diane. And as you can imagine, it's very flavorful. Now I'm adding a little bit at a time, the butter and the heavy cream. And one of my secrets to my mashed potatoes, or cream potatoes as some people call them, is about a teaspoon of sugar. You don't want your potatoes sweet, but it just does that little bit of magic in there. That little extra special something. See how those are getting? And now this is where the personal preference comes in of how you like your mashed potatoes. We like ours creamy. So I'm going to add this. And it might look a little too loose, but they'll stiffen up after just a few minutes because those starches in the potato. Look at that, how they're just a little bit extra made it creamy. Something else that's really good to serve with this, and I'm sorry I'm pounding, but one of the things that's really good to serve with this dish, and I didn't have any because I didn't think it looked real good at the store, is asparagus. Especially now in the springtime. This reminds me, and I'll put it back over that hot burner to keep that hot. So we're going to come back in just a few minutes. I'm going to let these mushrooms cook just a few minutes, and we're going to serve this over the top of the steak Diane. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. And here's our finished pan sauce. The mushrooms are all cooked down. And I'm removing it from the heat because we don't want the sauce to break. And there it is. So now we're going to serve this up with our cream mashed potatoes. Look at this. Oh. There's our mashed potatoes. Get the steak on there. That beautiful fillet. Now we're going to just use this finished sauce over the potatoes. And that fillet. We're going to top it with a little bit of fresh chive. And that is steak Diane. I'm going to cut into it so you can see how this method, you can do them out on your grill if you want to, but this way it doesn't take away any of the, look at that, a perfect medium rare. That's just how my husband likes it. And that's who I'm here to please today. So I hope you try this recipe. It's very good. And the recipe will be down below, just on the right-hand side of the title. Just hit the down arrow and a drop-down menu will come down and I'll have the recipe typed in there. Well, we'll see you soon. Thanks for coming.